I attended the Extreme Energy workshop today at Stanford. This is the second installment. Kudos to Stanford. This is a great event. To me, this is really what a university like this has to stand for, or stands for, or this is the purpose, right? You have a very hard technology. You have a lot of science. You have, by the way, yeah, you have a lot of science. You have some technology, which just means that some of the science now can be actually translated into an engineering problem. And then you have capital, you have businesses, you have government, you have regulators, investors like us, and we're all interested in the same thing, right? Can we commercialize this? Can we make this happen? There was a panel with Professor Cui, who in my opinion is one of the best when it comes to translation from science into business. His battery technology efforts maybe aren't as successful, but that's okay. I think this is this is what I want to talk about in this episode, which is just on a big picture, right? We have this whole extreme energy workshop is really about extreme energy, and extreme energy has a lot of definitions. It mainly means fusion right now, but it can mean other things too. There was a presentation about space, solar in space. There was a presentation about geothermal. So there's other forms of extreme energy. I think there's three elements that, in my opinion, extreme energy combines. One is it's highly complex. Second, it's incredibly difficult scientifically. And third, it could have massive returns if it works out. If those three come together, it's interesting to talk about it, because if not, I mean, particularly if the last one doesn't count, right? If you have all the difficulties in the world, but your returns aren't very high, then what's the point? So this workshop was about fusion. In particular, again, there were other technologies presented. And I want to just talk about a couple of things here. Let's say 3 points. 3 points I want to make about this. I think number one, I don't think that this high investment, long horizon type stuff works out. And I'm going to explore why. What I prefer much more, which is my second point, are technologies that are iterative, that are, where error correction can happen fast and efficiently, where the cost of error is not too high. And fusion doesn't look to me like it's one of them. This, solar in space actually looks more interesting. And I think the third thing I want to mention, I want to mention the human aspect of science and technology. Incentives matter. Incentives matter. Just look at East Germany and West Germany. I mean, so like institutional frameworks, incentives, and currently, I'm just not too happy about this setup with the national labs and the incentive structure there. There's something stale about it, and I think this is the reason why we have things like fusion energy, which have always been 20 years away from realization, and they probably will remain 20 years away from realization. Maybe last point I want to make on an optimistic note is that there is a transfer of technology. I mean, look at what Elon Musk did with aerospace and with electric cars and solar, right? There is a transfer of technology. So you could look at the national labs as maybe it's just a fertile ground for research and development and talent development, most importantly. So then entrepreneurs can pick them up and create business. This is not even a podcast. It's May 17, 2024. This is Crimdelco. It's the third installment today. We are down 15.4 for the year. The market's up 12, underperforming by 27.4. So extreme energy workshop at Stanford. Again, kudos to the organizers. I think it's just a great event. No matter what, the idea to bring people together, the idea to have industry, investors, excuse me, scientists, students, it's just always, there's no downside to this other than the time invested, which I think was absolutely worthwhile. Now, having said that, of course, there's a lot of problems with extreme energy, and let's just focus on fusion now. So there has been a breakthrough, supposedly a breakthrough, at the Lawrence Livermore National Lab about maybe 2 years ago. And the breakthrough was that they were able to create more energy out of a fusion reactor than they put in. Now, that's already wrong. Like the head of the lab actually said today, Kim, she said that, for example, the way this is measured is from the laser into the reactor. And we also have to take into account the energy that goes into the laser. And that is a multitude more than is being produced. But the reason this is not such a big problem or this is not misleading or anything is just simply because the laser technology also is not very mature, and we believe that we can improve on the laser technology. And actually there was a presentation today which was very interesting. ASML was there and they spoke about laser technology, and it's conceivable that laser technology, which is being used in the general processor manufacturing process, will improve massively and could help in the fusion reactor space. So again, but back to the initial lay of the land. So we have fusion reactors. There's two technologies that are prevalent. There's others, but one is the topomac, the other is injection. The topomac is a very hot plasma which is contained by magnets, and the plasma creates this virtuous circle of hydrogen atoms fusing into helium atoms, and you keep adding hydrogen, and because of the high energy there is this constant production of heat, and you can use that heat for other purposes. The injection reactor injects a very high energy laser into a small space. That space has a capsule. The capsule is filled with hydrogen, and you by adding all this energy to the hydrogen, you create helium, and you create a massive amount of energy. The reason this works, it's E equals mc squared, so you have to have conservation of energy, conservation of mass, and if you combine two hydrogen into helium, then you have less mass. Helium has less mass than the two hydrogen, so the difference has to be the additional energy which was created. So the two technologies are both in the process of being developed, and Lawrence Livermore is working on the injection technology. I think Europe is more on the topomac side. DeepMind has worked on this, also containing the plasma with reinforcement learning methods, helping the magnets contain the plasma. There's a lot of technology to be developed, a lot of engineering to be developed. I spoke yesterday with the chief scientist of the project, or the lady that runs the project actually at Lawrence Livermore, and she actually, her background is really a sort of a physics engineering background. So there's a lot of tinkering involved. And my point is the following. I am skeptical about this because of the large government involvement. That creates corruption. It creates an incentive structure that, in my opinion, is not clear. It slows down the process because the incentive structure of people in such government institutions like the Lawrence Livermore National Lab is just not to take risk. It is to take it easy, collect a paycheck, write papers, go to conferences. It's not driven by results. It's the antithesis to, let's say, Tesla or Amazon or NVIDIA. And those are the wealth creators in our time. So that's why I believe that this structure is not well designed. But more importantly, I think also from a Popperian perspective, I feel these large projects, they have a very low chance of success because you don't have a chance to iterate, and you can't error correct, or it's a very long process to error correct. You have a lot of government agencies involved that decide what is wrong and what is right, and you also have a very high cost of error correction. Like if you've built something for billions of dollars, let's say a machine, like one of the entrepreneurs explained, like it's going to cost $1 billion to build a prototype, it's kind of hard to admit that maybe the machine's wrong, right? And if you take SpaceX as a case study, what they do there is they iterate, right? They blow up rockets continuously to get better and better rockets. And this is not what's going on here, because again, the incentive structure is not right. And it's also, it's probably even not feasible to do that. The last point I want to make, again, it goes back to the human side of things, the incentive structure, the actual human aspect of pride, vanity, social status. All these things are amplified in a national lab like Lawrence Livermore or Fermilab or all these other labs around the world. Now, I think, and the incentive structure is just not right. What we need is entrepreneurs. We need Elon Musk's, Jeff Bezos's, we need, Jensen Huang's, those types of people who can take this technology, who can take, galvanize engineers, scientists, business people, investors around an idea and then push for it and error correct, have the guts to fire people, hire people, all of that stuff. It's just not happening in national labs. And it's quite frankly also not the job of national labs. That's fair. That's what they say also. So what's the conclusion here? How can we, as a society, progress, use our resources in the best optimal way? And the answer, in my opinion, is that the national labs, like the universities, should stick to their guns, which is education, knowledge, research. They should refrain from large money projects, and they should also refrain from elitist status seeking. And unfortunately, they're doing both of that. The national labs are all about grants and money, and the universities are all about prestige and rankings. So that's going wrong. And unfortunately, that's taking away from the optimal, so the Pareto optimality, which would be, again, a university is incentivized to create useful research that can be transferred towards, towards technology. That would be, in my opinion, that would be ideal. If we could incentivize that, if we could build a system, an institutional framework where professors, scientists get paid either through money or through accolades or status, if they can transfer technology into the business world, if they can actually build something that has legs, that improves people's lives, generates wealth, creates jobs, allows for upward mobility, all the things that technology does. We know that it does, but we just don't know exactly how to optimally organize ourselves to have more of it. And I think this workshop was an attempt to solve that problem, and accolades for that. My critique would be that we haven't really made a lot of progress in solving the actual problem, but at least we're discussing it. And just as the last point I want to make, the success factors that we can show as a society. We've had success with government involvement, such as the internet, the highway system, to some extent the telco system. Those things have worked, maybe even the public school system or the school system in general. But we're kind of derailing a bit. And it would be very useful if we could get back to maybe reorganize the system a little bit towards aligning the incentives of the people involved, the professors and the scientists, with society. Thank you.